Today we're going to be doing a June flip through of my Hobonichi Cousin. So this is the Spring Start 2024 Cousin, and we'll just do this chronologically. I use my yearly calendar to mark personal dates, so some project dates that I won't really talk about in detail, but as an example, I mark when I last uploaded for Analog Nights with a purple Tombow brush, so I know when I should probably upload next. I don't have like a schedule or anything, but it's just fun to keep track of. And I recently got this index flag, and I just use that to mark which month I'm on, since I am really bad at tracking which day of the week I'm on and which day of the month I'm on and which month of the year I'm on. I don't know what's wrong with me. But all right, so this is the yearly index. Mine is the Japanese version, so I can't read Japanese, so I don't really remember what they're actually called. But here I use my daily pages as notes pages, so I just index those here, and things have progressed from last month. I've added quite a few things to each of them. Mostly the reading journal though, since I read quite a bit this month. But yeah, I think in this project category, I have one new item, I guess, new note that takes up 2 pages, a whole spread. A few more pages here in the other project, and a couple more here in another project category. I think the only one I didn't really add on to is August, which is one of my projects, and I haven't really been doing much for that this year. So I'm leaving that for now, because I never know if for the rest of the year I will need that, if I'll work on anything. But I am also keeping in mind that that's some space that I can make use of, because as you can see, I basically used up this whole section. This is the October month, for my reading journal. And again, I'm not anticipating to read as much each month. But it is a little worrying, I guess. If I keep doing this, then I'll need, a whole month for each month, a whole monthly section for my reading journal each month, and I'll run out of space, I guess. And I really do need these sections to be my projects. But again, we'll see what happens. I'm sure everything will be fine, and I can always use supplement notebooks. It seems really silly to run out of space in the Cousin, but I'm just looking at these sections, which is it encompasses my whole book, and I'm about a couple months into this Cousin so far, and I'm like halfway through it ish. I don't know, it's very satisfying, but I can't help but think about how many pages I have left. But yes, so I have overflown into the first month of 2025 for my reading journal, and I think I'm definitely gonna leave these 3 months of the 2025 pages just for my reading journal and not let anything else overflow into it. And I think that will be fine, because the other sections are, progressing, but they're kind of staying in their own lanes. They're staying within their own section. My miscellaneous section here, for miscellaneous notes, is kind of halfway full, but I don't use this daily or anything, just when things come up. And same goes for everything else. So I think I'll be fine. Anyway, we have to move on. So let's go to the monthly section for June. Here we go. So this is my July, and this is my June. As you can see, I stuck with the habit tracker, and things went pretty well. I really like this clean look because before this I had been using the sidebar for weekly focuses. That's what I was doing here, and here I was doing kind of weekly to-dos. But here I just kept it clean, only used the sidebar for habit trackers, and I loved that. I really like the look, and I like using this blue tumble brush especially. So yeah, I'm definitely keeping that moving forward, and my habits were pretty good, I think. Yeah, so I do have this one column that's supposed to track if I work on a project. So of course I'm always working on different things, but there's one specific project usually that doesn't really have a schedule or a strict deadline. Basically, the only person who's checking if I'm accountable is me. So I put that there to make sure that I am kind of chipping away at it. And I did for a couple days, but for the majority of this month, so that's the second column from the last year, I didn't really work on it, and that's not great, but that's fine. I do really like seeing it reflected here in the habit tracker that I need to work on that. But the rest of the habits are pretty good. I think I screwed up some of my hair care because I'm not really supposed to do that every day. But sometimes I just do it. But yeah, everything else is just daily to-dos, some spending tracking, and that was okay. I don't really want to talk about that. All right, so the actual calendar, I had a lot of events and just things come up pretty last minute this month. So that's why there are these big arrows. It's because I ran out of space in the actual dates themselves, and so I had to put it here, and then I just put an arrow to mark that was for the 27th and not actually the 13th. And the same for this and this. I talked about, I can't remember where I talked about this, but I talked about not using the symbols anymore for my monthly calendar because I found that I was just looking at the item and I can tell if that was like an event that happened or sorry, if it was an event or whatever else. But I found out that I actually do need the symbols to show me if that event actually happened. Like I've already mentioned this, but a lot of my items get rescheduled or moved around, and it is pretty useful for me to see how many times it had been pushed back, so I can know I should really get on that. I should really make sure that actually happens this week and schedule it with the people that I need to schedule with. So I do actually need the symbol to show me if it's happened or not. So if it's happened, I fill it in. If it hasn't happened, I leave it, which is just an open circle. And so I've kept that up, and that has been useful. And I mean, it is also really satisfying to fill it in once it's over with. But yeah, I also used this yellow dot sticker to mark my monthly cleaning tasks. And I've kind of done it for the past months as well. Backfilled, I just use a dot sticker. But yeah, I found that really useful. This month was really busy for events, but I didn't actually finish a lot of projects, so I don't have any down here. And actually, I think I'm gonna change how I use this bottom section. But maybe I'll talk about that in a system update for my mid-year /Q3 system update. But yeah, no projects down here, which is kind of a bummer. I should have fit that in, but it's okay. Yeah, this is my June monthly spread. Lots of events, just meetings and stuff. So that's what has been occupying me. Let's go to the weekly section. Right. So let's find June. Here we go. This was when June started, so it's on the weekend here. As you can see, I started writing these numbers up here, and that is my page count number, or not my page count number, they're my the page I left my book at, because I don't want to have to count how many pages I read that day, like in the middle of the night. So I just write down the last page number, and then I can figure out how many pages that means later on. And yeah, so I did start doing this highlighting of the columns on the sidebar for my date-specific tasks. But of course, I started that already in May. And yeah, it's hard to really see what I started on the 1st of June, since I used the task section kind of across the whole week instead of, following the dates up there. But this looks pretty good, looks productive, and not even necessarily in a, I got so many things done kind of way, just in a I was focused, and I made use of the spread, which probably means I used my time well as well, because I was engaging in these projects that I needed to work on. I actually was pretty good this week because I mark some expenses, like some unnecessary expenses, like if I go shopping, if I eat out. And this week I actually managed to not do any of that. My total expenses is 0, not counting, bills and whatever. Right, this is our actual full first week of June. I tried using this gray Tombow because I wanted the color on the sidebar to kind of blend into the original design of the Cousin, and of course the Cousin is pretty monochrome, at least in the weekly sections. There are grays everywhere. So I wanted to kind of emulate that, but I did find the gray to be too bold, too obtrusive, because the blue is really, really light. And I really liked that. And blue is still a pretty neutral color, at least a light blue like that. So I found out that I didn't like this, or at least I preferred the blue. But this is when I tried it for the first time. I also continued to do the page numbers up top, and I marked those with Tombows as well to mark if they're the same book. So you can see here, maybe you can, but these are both light purple, so they're the same book. And these are all blue, light blue, so they're also the same book. So I know, from here to here I read 20 pages or whatever. I guess like on the 6th I read 20 pages or whatever, because I could see that the previous day I stopped at 60-ish, and here I stopped at 80-ish, something like that. Hopefully that makes sense. I had been kind of circling some items that I felt was urgent, or that I really didn't want to get lost in the shuffle, since these pages are pretty full. So I did that here too. And then I started doing it with the Tombow brush pen. Again, these brush pens are pretty new to me, so I was having fun with them and trying them out, and I don't think I liked using the brush pens for this purpose. I don't know what it is. I think it's just too much for me. It's really weird because I'm not really a monochrome person or anything in life. I really like colorful things, and I love the colorful grids in the back. But for some reason in this weekly spread, I really want it to be clean. I guess just to make it easier for me to look at the tasks, maybe, I don't know, but I really don't like this, and I'm just gonna stick with using the pen from now on. But yeah, I had a lot of things come up this week, and that's why I kind of went crazy with the circling or whatever. But yeah, I used a light purple Tombow here, and at this point I was still doing small dots for open tasks, so I guess that's not really visible, and that's kind of fine. I actually really like that. But for these notes that I was taking, I did bigger circles with the purple Tombow, and I think that is a little much. Again, this is kind of absurd to say because usually I wouldn't think that, but in practice, I found them really distracting. So, yeah. I also found that, like I said, I couldn't really see the purple dot because they were so small. So the next week, I actually tried out a few things. First of all, I wondered if the light purple would be less annoying, less bold than the gray, but I did not like it either. I love purple. It's my favorite color, that's why I tried it, but I still prefer this blue. Anyway, alright, I tried a few things. This was a shitty week too, I was not focused. Anyway, I tried this really bold purple color because if you watched my May Flipthrough video, I used it in my reading journal monthly wrap-up and I hated it. It was just too bold because I was using it kind of for these giant bars and graphs. So I figured if I use it for tiny dots, it'll be fine. It was not fine. Not because it was too bold, although that is also true probably, but because it was so bold that when I tick stuff off, I couldn't really tell. Like, it didn't look that different from an open task. And part of this is also my shitty eyesight, but that's what happened. So I stopped using it. Usually I stick it out for the rest of the week and then I try something new the next week, but I just couldn't tell what was done and what wasn't done. So I immediately stopped and changed to the light purple. I thought it would be nice to have the same color on the sidebar and for the tasks. And it is kind of, but so, but what, all right. So the problem was, I don't know, I just didn't like it. It didn't look neat. Again, I'm not great at using the Tombow brush pen, so it felt really messy. I think with the blue color, if I were to use that, it kind of, it wouldn't be so clear that it was really messy because it's such a light color. Even if you do like a couple swipes, it's still pretty light. But with the purple, it's a light purple, but it's pretty pigmented, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the point is, I didn't love this either. I did, however, find out that it helps a lot with my eyes when I make the circles bigger instead of the teeny tiny dots that I was doing here. So that's one thing discovered, one thing solved. But yeah, I did not get a lot done this week. And in fact, I got so little done. I also spent on food and shopping, which is not great, but I got so little done that I had so many items to migrate to this week. And this was, yeah, I think this was when I migrated a lot. Yeah, this was the week before last, and I have a weekly planned with me for this week, and you can see I basically migrated like half of the items from this week because I got absolutely nothing done. Yeah, I went back to the blue Tombow for the sidebar and extended it too because so many things came up last minute, events and things. And for the tasks themselves, I did get quite a bit done. Yeah, not much to say there. Oh, yeah, I used a gray Tombow um, for the tasks and made the circles a little bit bigger. Not as big as some of these, but a little bit bigger than the teeny tiny dots. And that worked so well for me. I definitely figured out what I want. I want blue on the sidebar, medium-sized gray circles for the tasks, and that was perfect. Again, still doing the page numbers up top with the Tombow to mark my books. And just, I guess I haven't really explained this, but if I finished a book and it's like page 450, and I also start a new book that needs to be marked with a Tombow because I'm reading it over a few days, I can still mark it with blue because clearly these are not the same book. If I, end it, like last time I read it, it was 450 and now it's like page 98. Clearly they're different books. So yeah, I don't mind using the same color there because the whole point is just to mark the same books. You get it. Yeah, I did. Oh, right. I did use the Tombow to make these circles when I needed to, and I didn't mind that with the gray Tombow. So maybe that was my problem. I don't know. All right. Finally, the last week of June. So here's when I tried something different with the sidebar. Again, so many things came up last minute. I had a lot of events, meetings, and whatnot. So I started out with blue on the sidebar. Maybe you can see a little bit of it peeking out. But what I did was every time a day passed, like at the end of Monday, I would put a gray Tombow across the first day, and that helped my eyes focus on just the Tuesday. Like the next day when I have to look at what events I have coming up or what I need to do, whatever, and I look at the sidebar, it's really easy for me to see that, oh, it's all of the events, all of the dots that's right next to the gray line. Again, these are problems that are solving my personal problems, like my eyesight problems. So I'm sure these, I don't know if it would be really helpful to anybody else. Like maybe if your eyes are better, it doesn't really matter, but maybe it's useful for someone out there who also have a pretty hard time looking at straight lines and color and whatever. Anyway, that's what I started doing, and I loved that. Like it was so useful for me. It was so easy to see where I am in the week, what I have for today, what I have coming up. It was great. But yeah, I had to extend this weekly section multiple times. At first I did just this section as an additional date specific section, and then I added a little bit more because one more thing came up, and then I had to add more because a couple other things came up. So that wasn't great. I mean, it's like fine, but I did decide to change the way I'm using this a little bit, move some items out of this weekly sidebar, and I will again update you on that on my system update that I hope will be coming out soon. But yes, on the weekly spread itself, the tasks. Everything else is the same as it had been the previous week, except because I had these meetings come up pretty, close to each other, I really needed to see where they actually were in the week. Like, it's kind of hard to see that in the sidebar. But again, I'm using these columns for tasks, so I don't use it for like time tracking or like scheduling the way a lot of people do. It's just not very efficient for me because, again, a lot of my things are flexible or rescheduled, so that's not useful for me, except for these few items that were actually pretty strict time-wise. So I marked them on the timelines here, and this is actually really useful because like I don't know, this sidebar is so functional for me that it really does tell me when things come up, like what day they come up. But the time themselves, I just write it down, and that is useful enough. But when I need to schedule other things, I want to at a glance just see when are the times that I can't do them. I can't schedule new items. And this is really useful. So I just mark the time that I am kind of booked out, and I won't schedule anything new on those times. But to see what the actual items are, I just go here, and that's, I don't know, that's really useful for me. Because, again, when I'm actually looking for the items, I don't need these timelines. I just look here, and it's already very informative. These are mostly just for my own scheduling purposes, to see when I can't schedule new items. I hope that's clear. What I found that I didn't like is using this tombow. I really should stop trying using these colorful tombos, but I was just hoping one of these things will work. Yeah, I don't like the purple tombow. I decided you know what, I will just tell you now, but I will just write a line or draw a line with my pen on the actual line themselves, because here I put it over the time on the timeline, and I didn't like that. But this I really like. I hope you can see it, but it's so minimal but clear and functional, and I love that. But yeah, that's something I added to my system as well on this last week. I also started using this index flag to mark which day I'm on, instead of the dot sticker that I was using before this, same as I did in the monthly section. But yeah, it's now the 3rd, so that's why it's there. Yeah, I think that's all I have to update you on for my weekly sections. So let's actually go to our month or our daily, which is my notes section. Oops. Okay. You've already seen this in my last flip through. I have some index keys, whatever you call them, and some layout planning. I'm just marking how many squares there are. And my first section is my daily logs. I don't know how much I can show you, but we'll see. I've got a wish list, and right, okay. I have again, I don't know if I'll be blurring this, but I have an expense log, and I did such a bad job. Again, I'm playing around with the tombow markers, and originally I wanted to mark these columns. But I don't know, when I put pen to paper, for some reason I marked like the lines, which is still helpful, but I'm like, no, that's not why I pulled out the markers. So halfway through I realized this is what I meant to do. I did such a bad job of it. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll fill this out soon enough and I'll start a new one and make it look pretty. I did not. I mean, this is horrendous. I don't know, I might be blurring like some of the expenses, but I hope you can see how awful this is, so we'll ignore that. But yeah, my expense logs are not nice. What are these? Right. I have a low-buy tracker that I won't explain because it's embarrassing, because I have not been doing well. But there is a low-buy tracker. It marks like how many weeks I've been successful in my low-buy, but we won't talk about that. I have a big item to-do list, which is for like things like cleaning out my whole closet, which I have, it's something I've been meaning to do, but I don't have a specific date I want to do it on. And I put it here as a big item to do. And I actually got like one thing done from here, or maybe more than one. I know I did this last thing a couple of weeks ago, so that was pretty good. Right, I'm gonna skip this because there is some personal information. Right, okay, my pen swatch. If you've been watching my videos, I have had a saga with pens lately, and it's been a journey. Long story short, I swatched them here. There they are. Right, I'll talk about the pen I ended up using, and this is the Uniball 1. It's a gel pen, I'm quite sure, and it's in 0.5. And last time I talked to you about pens, I was unsure about this because it's a 0.5 and it's a smaller nib that I'm used to. But I've since gotten used to it, and it's not as small as I thought it was. And I really like it. I really, really, really like it. I feel like I fell in love with it. I found the pen. I want to use this for the rest of ever. I just hope the ink formula doesn't change the way the Sarasa, I think, must have, or I don't know what was wrong with that one. Anyway, this is my new favorite thing. I adore it. Right, okay. So, what can I show you? I have a project section here for May, or like my second section, whatever. I don't think I can show you much. Oops. Right. I don't know if I did this month or the month before, but I did work on this project some more. Not much, clearly, but a little bit. And honestly, I need to get on this because the deadline is coming up. But yeah, hopefully next flip through, more pages in the section will be filled. Or at least the project will be done, however I do it in the book or not in the book. This next section, another project. I did not get much done here either, but I did write a lot of notes for it. I think this whole part is new. This was June. And this was also a recent edition. So I mentioned this last time, but I realized that when I was migrating into this book and copying in a lot of my notes here in the July section, I didn't take into account that if I continue these projects, I would need more space. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. So I decided I would put preliminary notes here, like really short notes here. And then when I actually am working on them and they're my current project, I'll write my notes in the June section. Probably not in May just because I have a major project there right now. But basically my main June sections are current project sections. So I can write preliminary notes here, and then when I'm actively working on it and I need a big space to do it, I go into June or May. Hopefully that makes sense. I know someone commented that dividing up the sections like this sounds really useful, and it's something that's usually solving a problem in bound books. So this is my first, I think, big hurdle or the first problem I'm encountering with the system, but the solution has been working really well so far. So this is an item let's actually find it here. I marked that it's from 7.1, so that's wow, okay. The first thing, right? So I have this note. This was a project and I only had a few thoughts on it. I'm like, oh right, these are items that I need to note down for this project. And then I realized when I started it, when I actually sat down and started, I'm like, oh, I don't know why I wrote that in this teeny tiny section because this needs more space. But these are overview notes, not detailed notes. So for my detailed notes, I start here. And that's really useful because the thing I was trying to solve is not flipping back and forth, because this note is continued elsewhere. But this way, I'm not flipping back and forth. If I'm going for my review notes, it's here. But all of my detailed notes are here. And usually, once I start this section, I don't really look at these notes anymore because some of these items have changed and I've elaborated on them here. So it's fine. Hopefully that makes sense. Please do let me know if you have any questions or if I'm not making any sense at all. But yes, so for this section, I have added, I think, a couple pages because I did have a couple projects come up that I need to take notes on. Right, I added this little section and this little section. Yeah, I'm really liking the system of, you know, putting overview notes here and then delving into those projects or those items in a current project section. I think in my next book, whatever, I'll just make sure that this overview section comes first and then the current project section comes right after. Just because it's kind of, I mean, it's like not practically awkward, but you know, it's not logical to go to the July and then to flip back to the June to be like, oh yeah, this is where the actual in-depth notes are. I mean, it doesn't matter. It just bugs me a little bit. But yes, so my next project section is one that I don't usually show you. I haven't worked on anything for this section, so you're not missing much. You're not missing out. I might use, if I don't see myself working on anything for this section for the rest of the year, I might start using these pages for something else, but for now I'll leave it. I don't need them yet, so that's fine. And we're in my reading journal section. This is my to read list, and last time I showed you these pages, but what I didn't show you is that there is a page in between. And that's because when I was writing this section, I just skipped a page. These pages are so thin, so I didn't realize that I skipped a page, and now I'm filling out the middle. Like when I have new titles I want to add to my to read list, I add it in the middle here. Anyway, I knocked quite a few things off this list. Just the 3 titles, really. A lot of the books that I picked up were not from my to-read list, so I read quite a few, but they're just not from this list. But I really want to start working on growing the list, but also reading off of it. I also have one that's just crossed off because I decided I don't want to read that book. Oh no, this one I actually started reading it and I found out that it's not good, so I crossed it off. Like I don't want to call it a DNF because it felt more like I was trying out the book than actually reading it and then deciding I'm DNFing it. A DNF would just get crossed off with a tombo as if I had read it because it's like a choice, you know, like I read it, not for me. Meanwhile, this, I don't know, I think I read like 50 pages or something, and it shouldn't have been in my to-read list in the first place, I guess is what I decided. Which is, I don't know, maybe a little mean, but not a great book. Alright, so last time I showed you my May pages and then my May wrap-up. Here we go. This was my last May wrap-up, and then I started the next month right after. I had not a great reading month, honestly. A lot of books were just fine. A lot of books were really bad. I DNF'd this one book. I don't DNF a lot of books, which is to my detriment probably. I should DNF more books when I don't enjoy them, but I don't know, I'm such a completionist, but this book was so ridiculous. It was so bad, so I DNF'd it. And it was like only the 3rd book of the month or something, yeah. And I was really upset because I'm like, I can't believe I'm starting the month off like this. And basically for the rest of the month, I was just chasing a good book. And I didn't really get many. This is a 1-star book. Yeah. So, alright, this is a nonfiction book. And at least not for like memoirs, but for more instructive nonfiction book, I guess, I do note down quite a few quotes, so that's what you see here. And on the, so the quotes I put in these little boxes, and these are just my thoughts on the book, sometimes related to the quote, usually related to the quote. Another book, alright, so this is, I didn't finish this book yet. I only have about 100-ish pages left, I think. But that's why I haven't marked what date it's finished, and I haven't marked my star rating, though this will definitely be 5-star. I am loving it, and you'll see that in the numerous quotes that I copied down and all of my notes on it. Another book that I haven't finished because I got distracted, not because it wasn't good or anything. But yeah, I knew that I was gonna have so many thoughts on it, so I left like a page or two blank, thinking that I wasn't actually gonna take a break from it, but I did, and I regret doing this. I should have just done what I did last time, which is, end where I end, and then I can be like, oh, it starts again in page whatever. So I shouldn't have done that. I learned my lesson though, because for this one, I didn't leave any like blank pages. I just kept writing on the next page for whatever book I pick up in between chapters or whatever. I think this was like one of the few good books that I read, or at least one of the few good books that I finished, because the nonfiction book was good. I haven't finished it. But yeah, I tried using, God, this is like a journey in me trying to use colorful Tombow pens and failing, but I used this really bold purple color. I didn't like it. Something about the gray is so nice. This is also a darker gray than I use in my weekly pages, and it reminds me of maybe like newspapery. It's probably not showing up on camera, but it's really nice. It's like a brownish gray. Yeah, I like that. Anyway, did not like this. I regretted using this, but it's fine. It looks cute. I thought I wanted to kind of coordinate the color of the Tombows I'm using for the quotes with like the genre of the book, and this was a contemporary book. But yeah, no, I just like gray. Right. And a couple books that were just okay. Did not like this one. Hated this one. Ooh, I have beef with this book. Loved this one. This is also one of the few that I finished that I really liked. So many of these are like, they started out great and then I just hated the ending. But I'm not gonna go into my book rants here. Another really good book. I only gave it 3.5, but my rating system is strict, you would say. I didn't really have any 5-star books. Like the one that I really loved, which was this one, I gave 4.5. But yeah, another shitty book. I should have dumped these books, honestly. I don't know why I finished them. Right, this was a good book. It was pretty good. I gave it 3.5. This was also a non-fiction book, but it's more memoiry, so I don't have like a ton of quotes that I copied in. This was a continuation of that non-fiction book that I read. That's why there are a lot of quotes. And this is also when I used my Srasa Dry 0.7, and that's why it's bleeding so much. I don't know if you can see on camera, but it bled so much. Anyway, this is a pretty good book that I read. Not excellent, but good. And at this point, I was using my Uniball 1, and I really liked it. I'm still getting used to my handwriting in it. Clearly very scrawly, and I was also like noting these down really quickly. I think that's why they look particularly scrawly. But yeah. So I ran out of pages in my reading journal section that I had set aside, and this is my project section, but let's actually look at the wrap up for June. And I had to do that on the 1st of January in the daily pages, since all of these sections I'm gonna save for my reading journal. As you can see, I have way too many thoughts about the books that I'm reading. Alright, so this is the wrap-up. I really like how this ended up. I marked started, finished, DNF. I didn't have any continued books this month, so I just decided not to note that down at all. Star ratings. I really like how this shows how my reading month was, and that month was not good. Way too many 1-star books, way too many 2-star books. Mostly 3 stars, not even a single 5-star. Really sad. Number of authors, because I often like to read from the same author, back to back, and I'm trying to read more authors, I guess, diversify my authors, and some genres down here. I noted down all of the books that I read because I found that flipping through these pages to see like, oh, what did I read this month when I read so many books is cumbersome. So I like just seeing this wrap-up spread and being able to see, oh, this was the month that I read this book or that book. And I marked the book that I DNF'd with a gray tombow, and marked the books that I really liked in purple. So last month I marked 5-star books only in purple, but I didn't have any this month, and that made me really upset. Not upset, but that's sad. So I just marked my 4-star books instead, which were also my favorites. So that's what I did, and I really like this June wrap-up. Pretty minimal, still purple, which I like. Kind of colorful, pretty neat. I made a mistake there, but don't look at that. All right, these are July, so I won't oops, oh no. I won't show you the July pages yet. Let's go back to the project section here in November. I have quite a few pages filled out this month, I think. Yeah, or maybe just this spread. It feels like quite a few pages because it spans like 4 items or 4 installments, whatever, for this project. But I started using my tombow to mark the steps that are finished, and because I'm working on this with somebody else, I mark the ones I have to do in purple, and the ones that it's not really my job in gray, but I still need to keep track if they've done it, not the person, if the step is completed. So that's what I did, and I find that really useful because sometimes I lose track of, am I the one supposed to do this thing or somebody else, And then I have my notes of the project on the side here. These are all ongoing. Actually, this one's finished, but these are ongoing, and that's why I still have space. But usually I fill them out with my notes like I do here. All right, my miscellaneous section. You got a peek of it. I might blur that out actually, but these are miscellaneous notes, and I started using them for not scrap paper, like those are real notes, but they're really quick notes I have to take in meetings, things like that. So they're pretty messy. The reason I don't want to show you is not because they're messy, but because they have, I guess, sensitive information, private information. I mean, they're from meetings, so maybe you can see the shadow of them. But yeah, since I'm writing them down really, really quickly, I don't want to I don't have time to be careful about my handwriting or where I'm writing. I just use them like scrap paper, but they have actual information on them, which is also why I can't show you. But here, I was watching so many planner videos, as we all do, I'm sure, if you're watching this, and kind of drooling over the Hobonichi weeks, but I know that I can't really use them, especially with the vertical weeklies and how little space it has. As you can see, my weekly spreads are pretty full. But to kind of satisfy my curiosity, I just mocked one up, and I was right. I can't really use them. I tried doing it for 1 week, and then towards the end, so many things came out in life, and I couldn't keep up with it. I was like, oh, this is, or not like I couldn't keep up with it, but I really found out that it's not functional because it's not functional. Once I got busy, it was hard to keep up with. It was hard to find the items. It was hard to, I found that because there's such limited space for the tasks, which is what I use the right side for. I found myself not noting down tasks. I was like, oh, I can remember that. I don't need to note that down. And then I forget about them. So that's not true, but I can't really fight that instinct to not write it down because I knew like space was limited. So many things fell through the cracks when I was here for a few days only. So at the same time, I was keeping up my weekly spread on the Cousin because this was just like for fun. But yeah, I even did it again the next week and I couldn't even really finish it. I was like, okay, halfway through, I decided this really isn't working for me. Not even just for fun, because I was still filling out the weekly spreads, but it wasn't fun, I guess. But yeah, Hobonichi weeks, not for me. I love the compact size, love the covers, love watching other people use it. Not for me. But hey, here's a little tip, I guess. Just if you feel like you want to try out a planner, experiment with it first with a mock version. Yeah, really did not like this. And then I have more meeting notes. Maybe I can show you a little bit. Pretty messy, but it has some sensitive information, or at least information that I don't really want to share. Maybe you can see some of the shadows there. That's what I've been using this month for. And I think that's how I'll use it for the rest of the year or the rest of my time in this book. Because this is really the only place I can you write down meeting notes, stuff like that. Or I mean, I can use other spaces too, but this is the designated space I have found when in my practical use. And that's it. The rest is my reading journal. Oh, right, the back pages. Again, I'm still taking suggestions on how to use these back pages. There are these extra graph pages, or grid pages, I suppose, that I think I'll just use when I need them. I don't know what I'll need them for. I know people use it to like patch sections in their Cousin or whatever else. I haven't needed to do that yet, and I don't anticipate needing to do that, but I want to keep them for whatever comes up. The timetable, again, I don't need these, but just for fun, I wrote down some items that I usually do not on a weekly basis, but usually when I do this item, and usually it's like a stage of a project, I usually have to do it on a certain day. Again, pretty flexible, and I often reschedule them, but a little reminder for myself, I guess. Like in an ideal month, these are the days I would usually do them. And I did do that in erasable pen so that I can, if I actually come up with an actual way to use this section, I can use it. But I haven't come up with anything, so if you have any suggestions, I would love them. This is something that I'm definitely not gonna erase and reuse or whatever, but I started tracking the page numbers or the page count that I read each day. And that's why I started marking them in the weekly section. This was my June graph. As you can see, I didn't read in April, I read in May, and then I read in June. I really like this. I used to mark this graph in my monthly wrap-ups, and a part of me wants to do that again. I might do that next month, honestly, or I might even do that here. Like I think it would be so fun to do the graph over the names or the titles of these books, but for now I've done them here, and I'm definitely going to keep up with this for next month. These are the pages read. These are the dates, the 1st until the 31st, and these are the pages read, and I mark which month it is. But yeah, it's really nice to see my reading progression through the month. I still haven't used the favorites for anything. I think last time I mentioned I want to do it at the end of the year so that it's more, I don't know. I don't know what my favorites of the year would be yet until the year is finished. But if you have any functional suggestions for this, I would also really appreciate that. All right, so I mentioned that I want to read more authors instead of just sticking to the same ones. So I started marking authors read, and I can only add one when I read a new author, obviously. And I think this is a fun one. I really like the C's for my 100. I don't know that I'll get to 100 authors. I don't know that I'll get to 100 books. But yeah, this will be fun. I really, really, really like the use of this. It's motivating me to try out new authors. So I really like that. I don't know what this is for. I don't even know what it's supposed to be for. I can't read this. Suggestions would be appreciated. If I could draw, I would do like a monthly doodle or whatever, but I can't draw. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Oh, I started just clipping this in here instead of just tucking it in because they always fall out when I pick up the book. Anyway, yeah, that is my June flip through, and thank you so much for watching.